We also caught up with an environment expert, Desmond Majekodunmi, who spoke to us on the impact of climate change on food security and the need to preserve rainforests. Worried by the impact of climate change on food security and the threat it poses to poverty eradication efforts, climate change experts are urging the federal government to take steps towards mitigating the impact, especially on farmers. In an interview with Environment Today in Lagos, an environmental activist, Desmond Majekodunmi, said changes in climatic conditions have affected production of some staple crops, stressing that unpredictable rainfall has also led to greater uncertainty and heightened risks for farmers.
And if we remember this year, Harmattan started just in January, end of December, January, for a couple of weeks, and it was very, very heavy Harmattan, to the extent that so many flights were cancelled. Certain areas of the country was even difficult to drive. Lagos, which should be the least affected because it's the furthest away from where the Harmattan dust emanates from, even Lagos had problem. And then all of a sudden, the Harmattan ended and heavy rain started. So a lot of people were saying, okay, early rain, the Harmattan season is over because the rains have now started. And that's probably part of the reason why people reduced their normal precautions, because they thought, okay, things are not so dry anymore. We can just have our normal rainy season lifestyle. Then the Harmattan comes back with a vengeance. And the tragic result of that is that places are a lot drier. People weren't really expecting it. And this is the main reason why we've had so many fire incidents. It's very sad. I now know that the Lagos State government particularly, but other governments are giving a lot of warnings to people that, look, be careful, Harmattan is back, everything is dry, you got to be really, really careful. Climate has changed.
To him, an adaptation and mitigation effort which will include preserving the rainforests is key. What does it portend? Because normally before now, when you see Harmattan, very strong, then there's indication that there may be maybe some bumper harvest for the year.
Exactly. It's so difficult to tell, and the people who are worst affected are the agrarian community, that is the farmers. Because again, in time immemorial, years gone by, we've always had fairly regular seasons, so that the rains are going to start around this particular time. The rains will continue, get intensive for a while, and then they will cease, and then you'll have your August break, and then after the August break you'll now have a second rainy season. So our farmers were able to schedule their cropping patterns, that is the type of crops that they would plant according to these seasons. They will plant maize at the early rains of the year, because maize takes a little bit of a while to grow and needs quite a lot of water during the growing season. And then during the August break, all the maize will be harvested, it will be put out there to dry naturally in the sun. As soon as August break is over, boom, you come in with your legumes, your cowpeas, those fast-growing crops that would now grow during the shorter second rainy season. But the whole thing is scattered. This last year, 2016, August break came in in July, and then again, the climate is changing, and it is a warning. It is a very serious warning to everybody, because there's nobody under the sound of my voice that can survive without food. We might be able to stretch it for a few days, for a few weeks, but we all need food. It's a basic commodity. And when you have this kind of climate change, it works havoc with our food security, because the farmers can't predict, and they end up planting too early or too late, and the crops get watered out, or the crops get dried out. It affects our food security. So surely anything that could impact negatively on your assurance of getting regular food should be addressed. And this is one of the manifestations, this is one of the terrible, terrible, worrisome dangers of climate change. That it can impact very negatively on your food security in some parts of the country. It's already caused catastrophic impact. There are parts of our country right here in this wonderful Nigeria where they were growing food all year round. I'm talking of the northern belt, where we have these wonderful great lakes like Lake Chad, and then the Hadejia and Guru wetlands area, which would absorb water during the heavy rains and flood around that area. And then when the rains go, the water will now start to dry up, and the farmers will be able to plant right until the next rainy season. That's why that area was the place that gave rise to the ground-up pyramids of days gone by. The northern part of Nigeria alone is, or used to be, a food basket, not just for Nigeria, but for that part of the African region. But now, because of climate change, we can no longer rely on that. It's turned to a disaster zone. There are places there where they used to have great farms. You would never know that a farm, let alone a village, existed there. The sands of the desert have taken it over totally. And this is one of the driving factors for the insecurity in our land. When you have people that grew up there, where they have a place for their crops, they have a place for their cows to eat, and so on and so forth. Their father, great-grandfather grew up in that village. Now the village has disappeared totally. And you know, they say a hungry man is an angry man. How about a man that has no water? He becomes a madman. And he can say, oh, peace be unto you, and blow the two of you up. That's how this insane ideology is able to grab some of these poor people, because they've lost everything, because of this climate change, which we must put a stop to.
He added that movement of people and their pasture from the northern to southern region, which causes tension and conflicts, can also be addressed when measures are taken to mitigate the impact of climate change. Now, the country is trying to move away from an oil-based economy to, a non-oil-based economy, and agriculture is obviously one of them. Now, with climate change affecting that and the recession that we have already, so how do you think the government will be able to manage this? What would be your message as an environmentalist?
We can definitely manage it. And we had the tenure of the outgoing Minister of Environment was very, very positive. She introduced some very, very good infrastructures. For instance, one of the things that they're doing to mitigate against climate change and to adapt to climate change is this wonderful green wall of the desert. This wonderful green wall project, which will help to hold the harmattan dust. It'll help to hold the desert back. That is a fantastic thing to do, and we need to take it far more seriously. She was complaining that in days gone by, the monies that were allocated were not judiciously spent, but I know now the kind of structure that is in place, you dare not do that. You dare not do that. And we need to really, really take this very, very seriously. It's not too late to fight the climate change if we go all hands on deck and we make sure that the measures that are necessary to be taken are taken. And one of those measures is actually protecting our forest areas, regenerating those forest areas that have been degenerated, like the green wall of the desert place that was done, but particularly protecting our rainforest. Rainforest is actually one of the strongest hopes that we have for normalizing our climate. Rainforest, apart from supplying us with the most essential commodity of all, we said food is essential commodity, but oxygen is a far more essential commodity. Without oxygen, after 10 minutes, you're not here anymore. And what do the rainforests do? They give us that oxygen, but they also give us the second most essential commodity, which is water. They are the relay runners. When water falls on a rainforest, it absorbs it, and it has a process of what they call transvaporization. It puts it back up into the atmosphere. The wind blows that atmospheric moisture again further down. It falls again as rain, and another forest will pick it up. And that's how you can get water going inland all the way, because of the forest. And what have we been doing? We've been tearing down our forests. Right now, there's a project in Cross River State where they want to build what they call a super highway right through a forest area when there's already an existing road that won't impact negatively on the forest area. And we're talking of the forest is one of the very, very strong weapons that will fight climate change. How can this be allowed? We must fight this, not just for our sake, but for our children's sake. And that makes me very, very hopeful because I know Nigerians love their children.
Up next is our drama piece on sustainable environment. And after that, our feedback segment where we hear your contribution as regards this program. Our contact information is right there on your screen.